What will you discover at Luray Caverns? From the tippy tops of their ropes course, breathtaking views of the Shenandoah Valley, from deep down below in the caverns, wonder and awe from all the formations built over billions of years. And in the spaces in between, you can walk through history, see the evolution of the automobile, and even meet the mayor of Toy Town Junction. Open 365 days a year, discover the perfect holiday adventure the whole family will love at Luray Caverns. Plan your trip at LurayCaverns.com. Today on CityCast Philly, SEPTA says it's in a financial death spiral. It's about to increase fares on everything across the board by 25%. And cuts to service are on the way.
This is the beginning of what we've been saying is the transit death spiral. Service cuts and fare increases resulting from fewer riders lead to more service cuts and more fare increases resulting in fewer riders. So ultimately, public transit is no longer relevant.
That's SEPTA Chief Operating Officer Scott Sauer delivering some devastating news about our public transit system. SEPTA CEO, meanwhile, just quit. And in the backdrop of all of this, workers are threatening to strike. Here to explain all of this and what's going on with SEPTA is Tom Fitzgerald, transportation reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He'll break down what this all could mean for your ride to work, school, and around the region. It's Thursday, November 14th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Tom, can you break down the numbers for us? Why does SEPTA have such a big deficit?
The basic reason SEPTA is so behind the eight ball with big deficit is because of the pandemic. I mean, so many things that we talk about for the last 4 years come from that. And with SEPTA, ridership fell off the cliff for every transit agency in the U.S.
Right. And that's what Sauer said in the press conference this week.
Yes, exactly. And it goes back to that. So the federal government, in like 3 infusions, they gave operating money to prop up transit systems so they didn't like totally wither, through the crisis. Gradually, ridership's been coming back, but not enough. And that money ran out this summer, basically.
So, Tom, can we say that SEPTA never really recovered from the pandemic?
Yes. They have about 70% of what they had in 2019 in terms of riders.
Okay, so I listened to Sauer at the press conference. He is currently the chief operating officer, and he's going to be temporarily taking over the agency after CEO Leslie Richards leaves this month. He called this budget deficit a financial cliff, and he also said it's, quote, painful. So since they can't get money from the state right now, that means we as riders have to pay for all this?
Yes, they believe they've got no choice because Harrisburg has not done anything to help the transit systems in the state. Others are having problems, not this severe. So, yeah, the riders are going to pay.
This is going to mean some fare increases. This is going to impact pocketbooks, wallets.
It really is. And it's another cost people don't need. As we know, folks are dealing with a lot of increased costs for daily living. And SEPTA fares haven't been raised since 2017. They're scheduled to go up on average 7.5% December 1st. And that's mostly by eliminating some discounts. Now, on January 1st, it'll be a lot deeper. So 21.5%. And that means riders would be paying 30% more than what they're paying now as of, New Year's Day. That's going to take a bite for some people.
Okay. So what you're saying is, in terms of the dollars and cents, cash fares currently are $2.50, and the proposal is that they will increase to $2.90. If you use your SEPTA key card, which is $2 a ride, that goes up to $2.90. If you have a monthly transit pass, That is $96, which will go up to $116. And then there's a different range if you're taking a monthly regional rail pass and if you're going from different zones.
Exactly. There's a lot of combinations. One thing I noticed is going to Trenton, the Trenton Warminster line would go up from $9 to $11. That's just if you buy a single ticket or, buy it retail, because the passes are all different for them. There is a pass that's called Anywhere. You can use it on the regional rail and on transit, like buses, all the other services. That would go from $204 a month to $255 a month.
I also want to point out that in your article, there was an asterisk that said the current fare would rise to $2.50 on December 1st of this year if the proposal gets approved by SEPTA board on November 21st. That's in about a week.
Right. They did a more modest increase and then decided, given the situation fiscally with the state government, they had to ask for more. So it'll be a combined 30%. But yes, there will be an average increase of 7.5% December 1st. I mean, it's likely to pass. And even SEPTA has got these calculations that when the price goes up, they have built in a certain amount of lost revenue from people who say, yeah, I'm going to walk, ride a bike, catch a ride with a friend. They're going to try to do whatever they can to avoid paying that much more. And they look at how much they're going to raise and subtract, a projection of how many fare payers they're going to lose.
Also with this is that they said that there's going to be actual cuts to service.
That's right. The cuts to service, if needed, which it doesn't look good right now, would go into effect July 1st next year, which is the beginning of the fiscal year for both SEPTA and the state. SEPTA is a state agency, quasi, and they're on the same cycle. And what that means is, 20% cuts. They're going to shut down permanently or suspend indefinitely a number of bus routes. Service will be reduced on all types of the transportation they offer. Less frequency. There'll be more waiting between rides, crowding on fewer runs that there are of buses. Say, like, how people sometimes run into that problem where they can't even get on a bus.
Or you find a seat.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be rough if it gets to this. And even on regional rail, it'll be everything. And regional rail will drop down. And Sauer might have mentioned this too. But I was talking to the chief planner for SEPTA, Jody Holton. She said that after these cuts, service on both transit in the city and close in and regional, all of it will become what she called unusable on weekends, because with the lower frequency of service, people will find it's not convenient for them at all. And they'll either forego certain trips they would make, like, say, going in for a show to Center City on the weekends or whatever, using transit to go visit friends. Yeah, that it would just accelerate the losing of ridership.
Should riders be panicking? I mean, this is definitely happening, right?
Yes. Well, the fare increases are definitely happening. There's like a teeny tiny window for Governor Josh Shapiro and the lawmakers in Harrisburg to do what they've been unable to do so far, and that's agree on a financial package that would put more money on a stable basis into transit systems. And as the biggest one, SEPTA would get the most out of whatever is enacted. But it's really a short time. I mean, the legislature moves like ice age glaciers, man. They don't really do speed. And SEPTA has to begin laying out the specifics of these cuts and informing the public in deliberations over its budget beginning in late winter, early spring. And then in government terms, there is hope or some possibility of a kind of a last minute rescue, but it's looking tough.
And that tough that you're describing, is that all a part of this death spiral that you wrote about and that SEPTA keeps talking about? What is the death spiral?
Well, the death spiral it's been studied and identified in a number of transit systems. When service cuts, people find that they can't rely on it. And so then they start making other decisions. Well, I need to drive now. I hate it, but gotta drive, or I gotta do this. You walk, a bicycle, and that just bleeds more riders and income from the riders. And so then the transit system, being SEPTA here, would have to first off raise fares and make further cuts in order to balance the books. And then it just goes on and feeds on itself. Eventually, then they start having to decide, well, okay, do we need to permanently close, say bus depots and mothball a number of train cars and store them somewhere? It's basically becomes a dismantling of the system. I sound like the prophet of doom, but death spiral is a pretty dramatic term, and it's used in transit industry. But for SEPTA to publicly repeat this is kind of noteworthy, to be saying it as their key message, like, brace yourselves, we're heading into this.
Is this like a negotiating ploy, though? Could this term death spiral be used as a political threat to try to convince Harrisburg Republicans to send some funds SEPTA's way?
Yes, I mean, it's inevitably kind of a threat. SEPTA's response would be, yeah, but we've been telling everybody about this, that this could happen. It's not like poker where we're like faking our hand. We're not bluffing. It's real. It will happen. We hope it won't, fully happen. The fares, that ship has sailed. Those will happen. But yes, it's a very pointed message to Harrisburg, inevitably. They say, oh, that's not our intent, but it's definitely one of the few upsides of laying out these plans, that it might get people to wake up, because what makes political systems act the fastest? Crisis.
Tom, I can imagine a Philadelphia with less public transportation, with less SEPTA. But when we come back, we'll break down more of what riders could expect in the coming weeks, including a threat of a strike that could shut the system down. That's after the break.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
The new Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. Introducing the all-new Apple Watch Series 10, now available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generation, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Tom, what's the status of SEPTA workers threatening to strike over wages and safety precautions? It seems like SEPTA is unlikely to increase wages by any meaningful amount given its financial situation.
They're limited. They have limited flexibility. They could probably manage some wages because places like SEPTA always stash money for contingencies somewhere.
Like a rainy day.
Yeah,
And boy, is this a rainy day.
it's like a monsoon day, right? So like totally, and that's a tough situation, and obviously inflation has hit the members of Transport Workers Union Local 234. They represent operators of buses, subway trains, trolleys, and also all the mechanics, the maintenance people, the people that run the stations, all the people that you need to have it operating. Now, yeah, they could still, they have an authorization to strike. The workers have been staying on the job. So they've been working without their contract, which expired Friday, November 8th in early morning. And they were prepared to go out on strike at that moment, 12:01 a.m. But they decided to postpone it. You know, the leaders of the union and keep talking with SEPTA's negotiators, and they've been doing that and making some progress. However, most of the progress has been on how to work out some of the safety concerns. SEPTA has been working on designing bulletproof compartments that operators would be encased in, and different technology that summons police immediately. The union says it's just been delayed, and we need to know this is coming by a date certain. Vests have been discussed, you know, tactical vests for employees. And then they also want more police to be hired to grow the SEPTA Transit Police even more, although they have recruited more and put in more police. That's difficult because how do you put in a labor agreement that TWU can tell the management how to run the police? I don't know. But some of these things, there seems to be progress on things that would protect the workers more.
Right. I was going to just ask you, like, how dangerous is this work?
It's no joke. It is pretty dangerous. There's a huge increase in the number of assaults and abuse, harassment, especially of frontline transit workers, all of them, especially the people running the buses, trolleys, subways. The number of assaults against them is way up, as I said. And then beyond that, there's even the fear factor that something's going to happen to them. And they're a very traumatic event for them last year when Bernard Gibbons, a bus operator, was shot and killed in Germantown last October.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, and that hangs over them. It's very tangible. I mean, I talked to operators and they're still very much in mourning and very much afraid. It's kind of post-traumatic, really, in some ways for many, many people.
Tom, you and I have talked on the show before about the bus revolution. What could that plan look like now that there's a proposal to scale back some bus service?
Right. Yeah, Trinae, the bus revolution was, premised on making it faster and more efficient, the whole bus system. And that would have allowed them to strategically make buses more frequent where they were most in demand, like 15 minutes or less between buses. Clearly, they'll be going away from that goal. So the bus revolution plan will be shelved, until when and if things sort out. They won't be able to implement it. There'll be hardly any, 15-minute or less routes, because the whole point was to shift service around so that more people got access to those faster bus times.
I spoke with State Representative Ben Waxman last month about the lack of support from statewide officials to get a consensus on this whole budget issue. What are our politicians doing or saying about this? I'm thinking Mayor Sherrell Parker, Governor Josh Shapiro. What have you heard?
Well, governors usually can be prime movers and try to make deals with recalcitrant, lawmakers, and they can twist arms and, all that sort of thing. It hasn't been apparent to lawmakers that are very supportive of fixing this that that's gone on. Now, to be fair, we had this election thing, sucking up all the energy of all the politicians in the state.
Mm.
So Shapiro has repeatedly said, this has to get done. I need this to get done publicly. What's happening privately, we don't really know, but not hearing that there's intense negotiations going on with these Republicans, which is sort of like the point. Sherelle Parker, she has influence. The mayor, her honor, has influence. And, city council. And actually, I am forgetting the dollar amount right now, but city of Philadelphia dramatically increased the share that it puts in for SEPTA operations over the year before and the last Kenny years. Yeah. So that's all they can really do. Philadelphia has like a very active and vocal delegation, especially in the Pennsylvania House. And they've been working really hard. But it really takes four to tango up there. Senate Republicans, Senate Democrats, House Republicans. The key one is Senate Republicans because the Senate is controlled by them. So they determine what gets considered or voted on. And they've held that up for, they have various reasons. But that's really the sticking point right now. And it's hard to see what unjams it.
Tom, I mean, we're talking about transportation here, but in the backdrop that's happening down at City Hall this week, there's conversations about the 76ers arena proposal, and lawmakers are going to be hearing comments from several stakeholders in this decision. You kind of need SEPTA to get to the games. So, I mean, I don't know, is Shapiro and Parker using the bully pulpit enough on this? If Senate Republicans are holding up this SEPTA funding, I mean, this could really send shockwaves through our region, once these fare hikes go through and service cuts happen.
That's right. And once that cycle starts, they're hard to reverse. And then, yeah, they could be speaking up more. And you're absolutely right. If there is going to be the 76ers arena in Market East, it would not work if SEPTA is too weakened to have viable, frequent service to Jefferson Station. It would be the nearest, station to that. So, if it's really supported, they've got to get behind SEPTA too. It's intertwined. And I think you can't really count if the process keeps going and there's no resolution or outside help coming from the state, then being objective, you would have to ask, can this arena work?
Without SEPTA.
You have to consider that. And it's like in this form, that issue hasn't been there. The issues have been, cultural damage, potential damage to Chinatown, congestion, more cars in the center city. But SEPTA would be the way, if they could get it to work, right? It would be the way to solve some of those problems by getting people to games, without driving in.
Other than these fare hikes and service cuts, what other funding measures can SEPTA use?
SEPTA has fewer options. They and other older large systems around the country depend to a great deal on what people pay to ride. So we have two problems. There's fewer riders and fare evasion is pretty rampant.
Right.
And SEPTA has like a wide estimate, but up to $68 million a year is lost to people that just don't pay. And, okay, some of them might be unable to, and some of them are just to heck with it. They can't do anything to me. I'm going to ride for free. And so their revenues come 40% from fares.
SEPTA is installing some technology to kind of combat that, right?
Yeah, they are installing these fairly impermeable, hard to defeat fare gates. And there might be some progress on that. But like buses and trolleys are out there in the community, and it's much harder to get a technology whereby like somebody jumping up on a bus has to pay. They can walk right past the operator. And of course, for safety reasons, they're trained to not confront, because a lot of these harassments and assaults boil down to disputes over fare money.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. Tom, this is a lot to kind of unpack. I'm also curious, why did SEPTA CEO Leslie Richards just quit? And what's going on with the search for her replacement?
Haven't heard anything about the search. No, Scott Sauer, the man who was in the clip, he's going to be the interim, general manager, CEO. But basically, SEPTA's had a lot of problems, and it just seemed the board of directors, really the bosses of SEPTA, just sort of came to this consensus over a while that they wanted a change at the top and thought, like, hey, that'll shake it up. And also the job stinks. It's not fun. But I think the betting is that a new head of SEPTA would maybe try different things and see some different solutions, whether that's true or not. And Leslie Richards served during like the nastiest, worst time you could be the head of a transit agency, and it has survived to this point. I think the board acknowledges that like she's done a heroic job throughout this stuff, but they also feel that it needs to be going in a different direction. Management needs to be tightened up in the bureaucracy, to save more money. Everything's centered around this fiscal cliff, trying to do whatever is possible to reduce the amount they need to take the tin cup out to the legislature and beg. They want to be able to say, we've done this, we've done that, and they have made some progress. Installing those fare gates is one thing that, rightly so, Senate Republicans questioned, well, you got all this leakage of fares, why should we give you money that's just going to be effectively stolen? And they're like, yes, this is a problem, and we're attacking it in these ways. It is overwhelming, actually, and hard to unpack about, all the different problems that are hitting all at once.
So it seems to me that the most immediate worry is a strike, though. So as we're recording this right now, odds of a strike in your mind?
Putting a number on it, I go back and forth. So say maybe 50%, a little less. The negotiations have, they've been progressing or, continuing. That's the best sign. The other thing, again, in favor of not striking is it would be hugely disruptive and cause a lot of pain and lost economic activity. And this is a time where that would be really bad for the region.
Tom, we'll keep following your reporting on all of this. Thanks for joining me today on CityCast Philly.
Thanks for having me, Trinae. It's a pleasure.
Read more of Tom's reporting by clicking the link in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you think of all of this SEPTA news. Share this with a friend who relies on public transportation. Also, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday News Roundup. See you then. Bye.